This is a Media Lab podcast. Welcome to Putting It Together, the podcast that goes through the entire body of work of Stephen Sondheim, show by show and song by song. My name is Kyle Marshall, your self-described Sondheim expert. As you'll discover in this episode, this song, Ladies and Their Sensitivities, has one of my absolute favorite musical moments of all time. When all the voices come together, it is some of the most beautiful music, not just in this show, but of all musical theater. But much like Sweeney later on in the show, we have to get through the Beadle first. Matt Steele is here again to discuss that song, but before we get there, there's just one piece of correspondence that I do want to get to. On Instagram, where you can follow me at Sondheim Podcast, Todd sent this in. It reads, "The master has done it again. While I'm sitting at the pool listening to the Kiss Me episode, the phrase trampled by a horse rings odd to me. Why that particular horrible fate? Of course, Sondheim has another incredibly intricate rhyme scheme devised for this song. Horse is to rhyme with Anthony's of course later on. That made me examine all the lyrics, and after a long time, finally discovered what he's done. And rather than spoil it, I'll just ask you, can you see it? As the true nature of his genius reveals itself, I look up to the sky, and for a brief second, I swear I see his smiling face in the clouds. The man's a god. Good luck. It's worth the effort. Here's a clue. Look at Joanna's line. Still there was a wait. That might help you get started." First off, beautifully written. Secondly, though, pretty sure what we're supposed to understand is that it's rhyming with "did I hear a gate?" Did I hear the gate earlier on in the song? So just one of those other things. Sometimes I really try to see if there's things that are rhyming with each other, and I miss obvious and not so obvious ones. And I love when people are able to unpack how these songs put together. And again, sounds natural, but there is this rhyme scheme that's going on behind the scenes. Anyways, we're about to get into kind of the back half of Kiss Me. This is kind of the follow-up song, Ladies and Their Sensitivities. And let's go and enjoy that now.
Come, walk home with me. I have news for you. In order to shield her from the evils of this world, I have decided to marry Joanna next Monday.
Ah, sir, happy news indeed.
Strange. When I offered myself to her, she showed a certain reluctance.
Excuse me, my lord, may I request my lord permission, my lord, to speak?
Matt Steele, thank you so much for coming back to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. It's always a pleasure to be here.
I get so excited to talk to you because you have such a love of musical theater in general, but also such a knowledge of it. So I say we jump right in and talk about Sweeney Todd just in general. I'd love to know your history with this show.
Well, I always knew that it existed, but as a little kid, when I was, 5 or 6 or 7, I was like, oh, Stephen Sondheim musicals, those are for adults. Those are the grown-up musicals and everything. And so
right.
Not that other musicals weren't grown up. This was my logic as a child. But I never knew that it was like a horror musical in any way, shape, or form. And so my first time seeing it and hearing the music I was probably maybe 12 or 11, and it was 3:00 in the morning, and PBS was on my television.
Okay.
And so the Sweeney Todd concert came up with Patti LuPone and George Hearn, right?
George Hearn, yeah.
Yeah, and I remember just watching it and hearing just the opening number and being like, I'm really scared. And being like, I wasn't expecting this. What is this? I'm a little nervous. And so then I was like,
you were 12 though, so you were basically an adult at that point.
I was, yes. I was a very mature 12-year-old. It was 3:00 in the morning. I was out living my nightlife. But I was like, it's 3:00 in the morning. I'm going to go to bed. So I didn't watch the whole thing. I think I got to Patti LuPone's Worst Pies in London. And then when I was about 13 or 14, I got the Stephen Sondheim celebration concert at Carnegie Hall. The opening of Sweeney Todd is obviously the overture to that. So I was like, this is amazing. I'm going to get the CD of Sweeney Todd. Got the cast recording of Sweeney Todd for Christmas. And was just blown away by A, like how good it was, but B, how much music there was, like how dense the score is. And so, of course, I got the DVD of George Hearn and Angela Lansbury, watched that all the time. And then in college, my senior year, I did a college production, a student-directed production of Sweeney Todd, and I was in the ensemble of that. I've done musicals my entire life, and I enjoy singing and everything, but I've always hated music rehearsals, despised. I would always tell myself, the first couple rehearsals are going to be boring because you're just going to be sitting there learning the music and everything. But these music rehearsals were so much fun because it was just, the people in the ensemble. I think there were 7 or 8 of us in the ensemble, and it was so much fun just like sitting there and like figuring this music out because it's so intricate and so interesting and so difficult. Like, it was definitely musically the hardest thing I had ever done was be in the ensemble of Sweeney Todd, just because there are so many like puzzle pieces to be put together musically. I will always remember that production of Sweeney Todd being the only time, honestly, that I've ever enjoyed music rehearsals because the music is so much fun to sing. And then later on in 2015, I was in another production of Sweeney Todd where I played Tobias up in North Hollywood.
I was going to say, you would play a good Toby. I was going to say that.
I was great, if I do say so myself. My mom thought I was great, so so take her word for it. And it's one of my favorite roles I've ever played. I had such a great time. It's such a great role, and the songs are a lot easier when you're Tobias, as opposed. It's much easier to sing "Not While I'm Around" than to sing "City on Fire."
Right.
Which I don't think anyone has ever gotten it correct, because you listen to it and you're just like, this is literally impossible. A, lyrically, and B, musically. You're just like, what are these notes? What are these chromatics? I don't know. We'll just go and hope it sounds okay.
Yeah, like, good luck. That's what they write on
and I was just
the books.
And I was so happy just being Tobias, being like, nothing's gonna harm you. Singing the easiest melody there.
When you are preparing for a role like that, though, like, are you getting into any of the intricacies that like multiple YouTube videos go down? It's like, oh, like this song refers to this song and this uncovers this part of the character there. Or are you just like, I'm just trying to learn how to sing this?
I mean, it's a little bit of both, but the thing is, you kind of like intrinsically learn it. You kind of intrinsically think of, inner workings of the character and everything, like, as you are learning it. It's kind of just a natural thing that kind of happens in the rehearsal process. It's sort of something that you kind of don't even realize, especially when the material's so good. I feel like for, the great writers and everything, like the Rodgers and Hammersteins and the Frank Lessers and the Stephen Sondheims, it's kind of like sometimes all you got to do is show up and just do what the text is telling you to do, and it will work and it will naturally come,
So a few questions, and because you have been in Sweeney Todd, you've seen multiple productions of Sweeney Todd, there's a kind of some recurring questions I've been asking then this season. Who do you think is the true villain then of the piece?
The Beadle. We're going to go into this a bit.
Yeah, we're going to go into it. I'm
glad I was chosen for this song because, God, the Beadle sucks. Like, what a, like, oh my God.
What a jerk.
Like, my God.
I don't want to cause waves, but he's not a nice guy.
No, he's objectively the most unlikable character in this. I mean, I get it. The judge does horrible things and everything, but the Beadle's just like, because the thing is, like, the judge is like, I think the judge is like low key insane, but so it's kind of like, okay, I have a little bit of empathy there. Maybe very, very, very little empathy,
sure.
You do get some dimension with him. Whereas the Beadle, it's just like, oh God, I hate you. Like, you are so slimy and gross.
Well, it's one of those things, like, you see this in movies, I guess in real life too, but it's like, you know what? It's one thing to be a terrible person, but there's another thing to be the person who is the brown noser to the terrible person.
Yes,
right.
And who's like
you were doing this. Yeah, you're aiding them. Like, you are helping them do this, and there's something more insidious with that.
Yeah, and the Beadle is just so much more self-aware, it seems, like he sort of seems to, he's not aware of how annoying he is, but he seems to be very aware of what's going on around him. That's what makes him like extra gross, in my opinion.
No, that's true. Because Joanna and Anthony are showing up in this song as well, how much agency, I guess, do you think Joanna actually has? Is she really falling in love with Anthony, or is it like, oh, he is my ticket out of here, I'm gonna just use him to get out of this awful situation?
I think she genuinely feels like she has fallen in love with him, but I do think she kind of naturally sees those perks in there. I mean, you have to recognize, like, he might be the first young, attractive guy who's ever given her any sort of attention. Or that she's like even seen. I mean, she's locked in her room. She's surrounded by old, gross guys who just like slobber all over her. And that's what her life has been since she was a baby. And so I think she does genuinely have these feelings, but she doesn't know what those feelings are necessarily. She's just sort of like going with it and going slightly insane with it. I mean, what is love in general? That's a giant question. We all kind of...
We are going to answer that on this podcast today. What is love?
What is love, guys? And that is what Sweeney Todd is trying to dissect. Yeah, it's why do we fall in love with anyone? I mean, it's all for everyone falls in love with different people for various reasons. I think Joanna's love is valid, even if it's a little insane.
My last question is this. So I believe, I have to remember correctly, I think you're the third person I've talked to that has acted in a production of Sweeney Todd. Because you got to, you would have used a razor then at the very end to slit Sweeney Todd's throat. Is that correct on how your production went?
Yep.
How did your razor work? Because I had this fascinating conversation with someone who had to play Sweeney Todd, and we had like a long conversation on how the razor actually spurted blood and how it all worked. So do you remember how your razor worked?
Oh, we didn't have blood squirting. It was a North Hollywood production
so red fabric.
And it was kind of it was a thrust stage kind of, but a small theater. I think it sat 100 people. I think it's at 99 people because of the 99 seat. It was a 99 seat contract in LA. So we didn't have, the set was very simple. It looked beautiful, like the way it was designed and everything. It looked beautiful, but it was a more simple vision, a smaller cast. And so, we just sort of pretended to slash the razor and
gotcha
that. And I don't remember if there was some sort of red light moment when it happened, but
yeah, right.
It definitely wasn't as like symbolic as the 2006 Broadway revival with like the pouring of the blood and everything. And there was no tuba to be found.
I was just going to ask, did you have live orchestra, or was it just like pre-recorded tracks you were singing to?
No, we had a piano, a cello, and a flute.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah. Interesting. Fascinating. Well, we are going to be talking about this song, Ladies and Their Sensitivities, which does feature the Beadle, the Judge, Joanna, and Anthony. This is essentially just this continuation from the song Kiss Me. There really is hardly a break, although there's a small book scene that happens in between them. I did not prep you for this, I just realized, but just generally, like, what is happening at this moment in the show? Like, what is actually going on? So,
the judge has just finished ruling some, you assume, unfair verdict, and the judge is saying, I have Joanna, who is living with me, who I've sort of adopted as a daughter, but, she's so innocent and I'm so afraid of her and I care for her so much that in order to shield her from the world, I have decided to marry her. And the Beadle, of course, is just like, oh my God, what a great idea, sir.
He's like, yes, slay, yay.
Oh, he's like, yes, girl, get her, get that wife. You approached her in a romantic fashion. She didn't seem to like it. And the Beadle was like, well... It's because you're ugly, essentially. The Beatles like, it's because...
Basically.
So the Beatles like, you're looking less than your best. And so, and ladies, if you didn't... Sir, something you may not know is that ladies like men to be attractive. And so what you need to do is like, maybe shave your damn face.
That's right. It's like... those stupid internet pop-ups that will show up. It's like 6 dating hacks that they don't want you to know. It's like, shave, maybe.
Yeah, exactly. like actually live a functioning life. And so the Beatles like giving him like all this advice of like, well, I know what women want, and because women are this way and women are this way, and it's like
I'm part of the church, so I know what women want.
Exactly.
Really what it comes down to. I always love how the judge phrases it too, because he's
she showed a certain reluctance.
She showed a certain reluctance. I'm like, yeah, like yeah, she did.
A certain reluctance.
Hey everyone, just Kyle breaking into the conversation to tell you about some of the people and organizations that help this show continue to go. First off, if you would like to help support this show for absolutely free, you can give a rating and review on whatever app you listen to podcasts in. That's greatly appreciated. And if you'd like to help monetarily, which will only help to grow and make the show better, you can do so over at our Patreon page. Please don't donate if it impacts you negatively financially. I do want to shout out that we did get a new patron this week, so thank you so much, Eric, for joining up over there. I also each week give a huge thanks to the God That's Good tier from Patreon of Jack, Todd, Carrie, Louise, and Christopher. Putting together as a proud member of the Alberta Podcast Network, locally grown, community supported. The Alberta Podcast Network promotes and supports Alberta-made podcasts and connects their audiences with Alberta-based businesses and organizations. This week we're brought to you by ATB, specifically ATB Cares. Looking for a way to give back? ATB Cares makes it easy for Albertans to support the causes they care about. Donate to your favorite charity through ATB Cares, and ATB will match 20% of every dollar donated to eligible Albertan charities. To learn more and donate, you can visit atbcares.com. This week we're also brought to you by the Alberta Podcast Network, so let's go and listen to one of our other great shows. Hi, my name is Kyle.
I'm Dave.
And I'm the Machine.
And we do a podcast called Kyle and Dave versus the Machine. It's a podcast where a sentient machine is forcing us to watch movies in order to prevent it from initiating the apocalypse. Although, Dave, you and I tend to talk about the ideas of the movie rather than the movie itself.
Well, it's the machine's fault, like everything, and by effect your fault, Kyle, that you've invited me, and this is the only thing I like to talk about.
I mean, I'm not going to face the apocalypse alone, so you seem like a good patsy to bring along with me.
If you wanted somebody that was going to give you some hope, you picked the wrong person.
Kyle and Dave vs. the Machine is a proud member of the Alberta Podcast Network, locally grown, community supported. New episodes are out every Friday. But the Beadle launches into this specifically. He says, "Excuse me, my lord, may I request, my lord, permission, my lord, to speak. Forgive me if I suggest, my lord, you're looking less than your best, my lord. There's powder upon your vest, my lord, and stubble upon your cheek, and ladies, my lord, are weak."
Excuse me, my lord, may I request, my lord, permission, my lord, to speak. Forgive me if I suggest, my lord, you're looking less than your best, my lord. There's powder upon your vest, my lord, and stubble upon your cheek. And ladies, my lord, are weak.
Perhaps if she greets me.
There's our good friend the Beadle starting out this song.
Well, I think, first of all, the Stephen Sondheim, I feel like, does everything in his power to get the audience to hate the Beadle, because he's like, you know what'll get the audience to not be able to relate to this guy? Put the music in 5/8 time. Like, let's have this be an unrecognizable rhythm and pattern and like tempo. Like, let's just have it be completely weird to the ear to just show how weird the Beadle is. So that just goes throughout the entire number pretty much. It's so annoying how he's just like, "Oh, do I have permission to speak, sir?" Like just sucking up to him right away.
It's a great show of character within lyrics, because it's like he is so like overly verbose, and yet always has to like, my lord, is like what the recurring thing is at the end of each line. Which is why it's interesting. I think it's the third last word that gets rhymed, because he's saying my lord essentially at the end of every single line here. So it's like best my lord, vest my lord, suggest my lord, right?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And the way he words, you're looking less than your best. Like you're not looking horrible, but like it's just less than your best. And just the last line, and ladies, my lord, are weak. Just kind of saying like, well, women, they're not attracted to the finer things in life, like intelligence and status and jobs and everything. Like they're weak and you know they can't help it, but look at how men look and everything. It's because they're weak, you know.
Well, sure, and this is one of those other things very subtly that's being used here. I mean, disregarding the misogyny of that line, but also bringing up the fact that like, well, like men aren't, and yet depending on what production you go and see, it's like we literally just watched the judge get himself off while watching Joanna through a keyhole. So like, let's talk about being weak here for a second.
Exactly. Like the judge isn't attracted to Joanna because she may have a good job in her future. Like
her upward mobility, I think, is going to be pretty big. So that's what attracts me.
It's definitely a power move on the judge's part.
Right. We also have been talking this season how Sweeney Todd loves to put down a melody or a line that then gets repeated throughout the show. This one specifically does show up a few different times, like this 5/8 time, this melody specifically, because the judge will use it at the beginning of Pretty Women. In the whole final sequence, of course, that also gets brought back again as Sweeney Todd is shaving him for the very last time. So it is interesting, like this little setup to this whole song is in this like weird meter rhyme thing and then gets reused a few different times.
Yeah, I could just imagine Stephen Sondheim showing up to rehearsal and telling the guy who's the Beadle, like, here's the song, and he like plays it for him, and the guy just being like, oh really? Like, oh god. and then Len Carey, you probably being like, oh, I'm glad I don't have to sing that. And then and then suddenly Stephen Sondheim being like, oh, you're gonna have to whistle it while the judge is going bum 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 under like a completely different line that's completely different and everything.
There's a sense of this, I'm sure, especially in like the original cast, where as songs were coming in, they must have been like, this is amazing. And also like, how is this going to work? Like, is this actually going to come together?
Oh, yeah. Because listening to the cast recording is so completely different from learning it. Because, you know, listening to the cast recording, I'm listening to, I brought up City on Fire. And listening to the cast recording, I was like, oh, yeah, this sounds so effortless. And they're doing it and everything. But then like actually sitting down to learn it, and learning what those notes are and how specific they are, it's just like, oh, this is impossible. How did this cast ever get it? Like, if I had not heard it before on the cast recording and someone just tried to teach it to me, having not heard it before, I would have be like, I quit. Like, I can't do this. This is literally impossible.
Okay, you're singing Rats in the Streets. You over here are singing this, and it's all going to work.
Yeah, there's rats in the streets, rats in the grass. Like hunchbacks kissing, hunchbacks dancing. It's like, where are we?
So the Beadle continues, though. He says, ladies in their sensitivities, my lord, have a fragile sensibility. When a girl's emergent, probably it's urgent, you defer to her gentility, my lord. Personal disorder cannot be ignored, given their genteel proclivities. Meaning no offense, it happens they resents it. Ladies in their sensitivities, my lord.
Ladies in their sensitivities, my lord, have a fragile sensibility. When a girl's emergent, probably it's urgent, you defer to her gentility, my lord. Personal disorder cannot be ignored, given their genteel proclivities. Meaning no offense, it happens they resent it. Ladies in their sensitivities, my lord.
Stubble, you say? Perhaps at times.
Oh yeah, that final moment that happens, they resents it. Ladies in their sense it. Love it. Yeah, amazing. I think it's so interesting how, we talk about the melody of the first part is in 5/8 time. So it's like, oh God, the Beatles so annoying. But this melody, it's a much easier meter. But with this melody, it's like, oh, the Beatles, like, gross. Like, the melody, it just sounds like a snake. It sounds so slimy. And the fact that it's so elongated and he's just taking his time with it, it's just like, you are such a gross, narcissistic, like, dude.
You know what it is, too? I don't know why. Because, like, on the face of it, it's not gross, but maybe it's just the way it's sung or the way it's performed. But just the way he says, when a girl's emergent. It's like, what? That's, what are you,
I know.
What are you talking about?
Yeah, like she's emerging, blossoming as a woman. It's
blossoming as a woman.
Yeah,
right? You have to pluck it, right?
Yeah, emergent is such a gross way of putting, like, blossoming into a woman.
Right, right. Yeah, I'd rather he just said blossoming into a woman rather than emergent. Yeah, I honestly, I think that's the biggest thing for me is just the way that he goes on these few different runs, which is in both cases rhyming two words. So emergent and urgent in the first stanza, and then it's urgent, utility, my lord. So it's going on to the second line. Offense it, resents it, sensitivities is what goes on to the next line after that.
Yeah, it's really amazing. And I love the genteel proclivities. Is that, I always wonder, is that him saying, like, she's just a good Christian girl, and so you have to be basically as sweet and to her as possible, and sweet looking and innocent looking and not threatening. And we all know stubble is threatening, so get rid of it.
Exactly. It's the stubble, really. It is one of those things. Again, he's not specifically saying those words, but that is essentially what he's saying. It's like, listen, she's a good Christian girl. She's rebuffing you, but really deep down, she really wants it, right? Like that's what he's saying in this stanza, which we have seen in modern day gets used all the time, right? It's like, oh, what they really actually do want it if they say no.
Yeah.
So everything is on the up and up is what we're trying to say here.
All you need is a makeover and you'll get the girl.
Now, talking about hard to sing, I guess this wouldn't be hard to sing, but I'm about to get into this section where there is a lot of stuff happening at the same time. The Beadle ends off and says, "Fret not, though, my lord. I know a place, my lord, a barber, my lord, of skill. Thus armed with a shaven face, my lord, some eau de cologne to brace, my lord, and musk to enhance the chase, my lord, you'll dazzle the girl until she bows to your every will."
Fret not, though, my lord, I know a place, my lord, a barber, my lord, of skill. Thus armed with a shaven face, my lord, some eau de cologne to brace, my lord, and musk to enhance the chase, my lord, you'll dazzle the girl until she bows to your every will. Barber.
And Judge Turpin will say then usually, "Perhaps you're right, take me to him." And then the Beatles start singing, "The name is Todd." And that's when Anthony and Joanna come into this, and they're essentially singing through Kiss Me here again. Anthony is saying, "We'd best not wait until Monday." And Joanna says, "Sir, I concur, and fully too." And then Anthony goes, "It isn't right, we'd best be married on Sunday." And then they kind of go back and forth here and go, "Saturday, sir, would also do, or else tonight. I think I heard a noise, fear not, I mean another noise, like what?" And then they're singing over top of each other. So Joanna is saying, "Oh, never mind, just a noise, just another noise, something in the street, I'm a silly little ninny-noddle, kiss me, oh sir." While Anthony is singing, "You mustn't mind, it's a noise, just another noise, something in the street, you silly, kiss me." Then they go back and forth again. "We'll go to Paris on Monday, what shall I wear, I daren't pack. We'll take a train, with you beside me on Sunday, what will I care what things I lack, then sail to Spain." Then they sing over top of each other again. And I'll just say it, and perhaps my favorite part of this, but Joanna's saying, "I'll take my reticule, I need a reticule, you must think me a fool, but my reticule never leaves my side, it's the only thing my mother gave me, kiss me, we'll go there, kiss me, we have a place where we can go." While Anthony is singing, "Why take your reticule, we'll buy a reticule, I never think you a fool, but a reticule, leave it all aside and begin again and kiss me, I know a place where we can go tonight, kiss me, we have a place where we can go tonight." And the Beadle comes in going like, "His name is Todd." Basically gets sung over top of that.
The name is Todd.
We'd best not wait until Monday.
Sir, I concur and fully
It's Sweeney Todd. We'd best be married on Sunday.
Saturday, so would also
storehouse tonight.
I think I heard a noise.
Fear not.
I mean another noise.
Like what?
Oh, never mind, just a noise.
You mustn't mind, just a noise, just another noise. Something in this silly kiss me.
Oh, sir,
We'll go to Paris on Monday.
where shall I wear? I dare
We'll
it.
ride a train.
With you beside me on Sunday, what will I care what things
Then
I
sail
lack?
to Spain.
I'll take my
With
reticule.
your
I need my
reticule. Buy a
reticule.
reticule.
You mustn't think
I'd
me
never
a fool,
think
but my
to fool,
reticule.
put your reticule, leave it all
It's
aside,
something my
and
mother
begin
gave me.
and kiss
me.
The name is
Kiss me.
I know a place where we can go
We'll
tonight and kiss me. We have a place where we can go tonight. I love you as I saw you.
I mean, first of all, it just, to get us to even hate the Beadle even more, there's a very weird key change in there. It's when he starts off in fret not, though. It's just like, and you just feel the audience go, oh God, he's going back to this part musically again, you know?
Right.
And just like, oh, there's more for him to say. Oh God. And he's just so excited about it. Just the fret not, I know a place. And then just, you're going to shave your face. You're going to smell good. It's all going to be great. You'll dazzle her until she finally submits to you.
You know what I didn't realize until now? This is such a stupid realization and probably so obvious to everybody listening that both the Beadle and Anthony are singing about kind of the same thing. Hey, I know a place, let's go. So both of them are basically singing the same thing in very different circumstances, but both are kind of doing the same thing. So I happen to think Kiss Me and how this all gets layered together is some of the most beautiful parts of this entire show. Like, I love this part when they all start singing over top of each other. You have like the Beadle singing Todd as kind of the undertones, and then Anthony and Joanna are going back and forth, and the music is swelling underneath it. It's like, this is so gorgeous to listen to.
Oh, I completely agree. I think it's definitely one of the highlights of a score that is, you know, one of the best scores of all time. And it's just so thrilling. And it you know, at this point, you don't even care that you hate the Beatles so much or that his music is so weird, because the way it all finally culminates and works together is just fantastic.
It's one of those things too, is like what this show continually does is have like this beautiful music playing when something really traumatic is possibly happening on stage too. Because essentially the Beadle is like, yeah, let's go and, you know, splash some bay rum on your face so we can like get your ward to fall in love with you, which it's not going to happen. But while these other two are like, we need to run away, and we need to run away now, or else things are going to end badly. But then it's all sung so beautifully at the same time.
Well, and it's so funny because they know that like the clock is ticking, Anthony and Joanna. They know, they're like, we have to figure this out now because we have to go now, and like the judge will come home soon and everything. But they're still just like taking so much time trying to figure it out, but it's all happening so fast. They're like, okay, we're going to do this and we're going to sail to Spain. He can literally just be like, I'm going to pick you up tonight and then think about the details later, you know? But instead he's like, okay, and then we'll get married on Sunday, or wait, no. And she's like, wait, no, Saturday is like also cool. And he's like, no, but it's not right. It has to be Sunday and everything. And it's like, why are you discussing
Anthony,
this? Like, get out of there.
Let's go. Anthony, why are you talking about this?
And I also agree that my absolute favorite part of this entire sequence is the reticule.
Fuck,
it's great.
It's so good because it's like, I kind of agree with Anthony in just one part. It's like, why are you talking so much about this reticule? No one has ever said reticule this many times in the span of like 5 seconds. It's like,
and it's so
almost
funny.
Too much.
It's so funny because the reticule literally never comes up again in the show. You know, it's just a tiny detail that Stephen Sondheim was just like, you know what? Her mother left her a reticule and she loves the reticule, and they're going to talk. It's so natural and it feels so real. And it's the one moment of kind of Anthony and Joanna's relationship where Anthony's kind of just like, this is weird. You know, like you're being weird about this.
Yeah,
like,
just leave everything.
stop.
We can pack it up. It's like, fine, like grab your reticule then. Like, it's just, if anyone's out there wondering, it's just a small purse as far as I understand is what a reticule is. Like, that's what normally it is. I guess it could be a bigger bag too, but
you know, she needs a purse.
Yeah, everyone does.
Yeah, in case she needs some tissues or something like that.
My question to you is this. I feel like I'm stepping into something even asking this question, because I'm sure I'll get called out for maybe not knowing this. But do you know if ninny noddle is an actual slang term for anything, or did Sondheim make up this word?
I have no idea.
Because, and I'll only say this, and I know this is not like the best place to go for research, but just typing out the word ninny noddle on Google provides 0 results. The only thing is a user on Reddit that is named that. And it's like, I don't know if this is an actual slang term that British people back in the 1850s used, and that's why he's using it. Like, I think you understand what she's meaning. She's calling herself like dumb or simple.
I want to say I've heard of the term ninny noodle before knowing Sweeney Todd. Where have I heard the term ninny noodle?
Like a ninny, I've heard, of course. Like, I don't know if that's just like a shortened version of this word is where it's coming from, but that would be my guess. But I have no idea.
Someone out there knows the history of ninny and ninny noddle and ninny noodle and what the difference is between the three.
And if there is no difference, I need to make a food truck that sells pasta that's called ninny noodles.
Ninny noodle, yeah.
So the ending comes, and it's again a bunch of people singing over top of one another. So I'm going to try my best here. So we have Joanna saying, I loved you even as I saw you, even as it does not matter that I still don't know your name, sir. Even as I saw you, even as it does not matter that I still don't know your name. Again, hilarious that she still doesn't know this guy's name, but here we are. Anthony is singing, I loved you even as I saw you, even as it did not matter that I did not know your name. Joanna, Joanna, Joanna. So he's bringing back that reprisal. The Beatles still singing like Todd, Sweeney Todd, Sweeney Todd, and the judge and him go back and forth. Joanna is like, Anthony. And it goes into, I'll marry Anthony Sunday. That's what I'll do no matter what. I knew you'd come for me one day, only afraid that you'd forgot. While Anthony is singing, you'll marry Anthony Sunday. That's what you'll do no matter what. I knew I'd come for you one day, only afraid that you'd forgot. And then the Beatles, of course, going in this high register, going, ladies in their sensitivities, my lord, have a fragile sensibility. Again, over top of one another, Joanna is saying, I feared you'd never come, that you'd been called away, that you'd been killed, had the plague, were in debtor's jail, trampled by a horse, gone to sea again, arrested by the... Whereas Anthony is saying, marry me, miss, you'll marry me Sunday, favor me with your hand, promise, marry me, that you'll marry me, enough of all this. Beadle breaks in, when a girl's emergent, probably it's urgent, ladies and their sensitivities. Judge Turpin now says like, Todd, oh sir, from Joanna, miss from Anthony, and then just oh sir, miss, on repeat for like 7 or 8 times.
Sunday, that's what you'll do no matter what. And I knew I'd come for you one day, only afraid that you'd forgot. Just as you say, marry Sunday, promise, marry me, enough of all this.
First off, we're kind of going back in time here a little bit, because even in Kiss Me, she mentions how, like, I don't even know who you are really, but I'm falling in love with you. And my thing here too, I always feel bad talking about performers on stage. They know how hard it is. But that 1982 recorded version with Angela Lansbury and George Hearn, I've been on record as saying I'm not the biggest fan of the Joanna performance in that show, where everything else is actually pretty decent. But I've seen on YouTube other performances of Joanna, and especially in this section, where you see her being a little bit of a, not straight out comedic character, but she's allowed to be funny at the same time, where she's forgetting she's grabbing her reticule while he's going in for a kiss. Like, there's all this stuff that's happening that allows her, I guess, a little bit of extra character than just being like the people are looking at her for just her beauty. I don't know. How do you feel about the Joanna character, just in general within the show and what she's allowed to do?
Well, I think it's so... The Joanna character is so interesting because at first listen, if you're just listening to the score, you're kind of just like, oh, she's a blonde ingenue. Mm-hmm. You know, sometimes her music is a little frantic and everything, but then like you go deeper into, and then you like see the show and you're just like, oh, Joanna's a psychopath. Like Joanna's kind of crazy. And you notice then, oh my God, why didn't I know this the whole time? It's written directly into the music. It's all right there. And I actually love Betsy Jocelyn in the 1982 DVD just because she's really just going for it. And I think it's so much fun. And I think her voice is just like so great. But it's really fun seeing interpretations of Joanna. I think she's a very interesting character that I think some people would write off at first glance. And so I like it when actresses really kind of find moments to really do something different.
I agree. I think that's always the interesting approach when you come to revivals, right? It's like it's hard because you're going to get criticized either way. You're going to get criticized of like, you've just done the same thing that they did the last time. It's like you took this in too much of a different direction. So it's like always a hard balance to like weigh between those.
Well, and you also like really see how Joanna is. You can tell Sondheim was like, I want her to be like a frantic bird, because all of her music 100%. Sounds like she's like a bird trapped in a cage. She usually literally uses in Greenfinch and Linabird the whole song to describe how she is like a bird trapped in a cage. And so what are birds trapped in cages like? They're a little crazy and they're batting their wings against the cage. And so I think the way Stephen Sondheim put that in the music, it was sort of like in a sly way without it being like so obvious. I think it's so smart and really fun to perform.
Yeah, I think that's the interesting part about this show, and especially doing the deep dive that we're doing here this season, where I think it's easy coming into this show where it's like, oh, Sweeney Todd and Mrs. Lovett, those are the crazy ones in this show. And then the more you dig into it, it's like, actually, I think they all are, to varying degrees, of course. But it's like all of them have a slight weirdness and like off-kilterness energy to them for the whole thing.
Sure. And a slight sense of just like sort of being lost and not knowing how you're coming across, not knowing what you're doing, you know, with all the characters, with Tobias, with Mrs. Lovett, with Sweeney Todd, with the Beadle, you know?
The other thing, too, that I've been noticing here and really delving into the stuff that is kind of being sung at the same time, like over top of one another. And I'll just speak for myself. Sometimes I just don't pick up on different melodies that are being sung underneath it, but absolutely are there. I just find it interesting how Anthony and the judge specifically are paired up in this show in an interesting way. I think it's Anthony who talks about like, I saw you in shadows, but then the judge later on says, I saw you in light. Like they're definitely playing off of one another. And yes, I realized that it was cut from the show, but like him singing Joanna is in similar way to the judge having sung it himself, which will be reprised in the Joanna Quintet. But it's just, it's interesting how they are being paired. I straight up don't think this is trying to say it's like, oh, well, like Anthony has this secret dark history to him. I just think it's interesting how they're showing the affections can happen and one is being received and one is not.
Oh, yeah. They all have a different meaning of what Joanna means to them. And that's like shown throughout the music. And the fact that there are so many songs called Joanna. Are we like officially calling the judge's Joanna cut now? Because I've seen Sweeney Todd so many times on stage and I've never seen a production that didn't include it. I feel like
it's hard. Like that was my struggle of even including it in this season, because technically cut from the original cast, but Sondheim himself says that he thinks it should be put in. He thinks that it's a song that should not have been cut from the show originally, even though he agreed that the first act needed to be pared down. But once you take out the second half of the contest with the teeth pulling, that doesn't really need to be there. Oh, yeah. I think it fits in well enough. And you're right. I think the last two major productions have included it, so I don't know how cut it is anymore.
Yeah, both of my productions included it and everything. Yeah, we had the judge's Joanna and when I was Tobias and the teeth pulling thing. And it's just like, we're really going for it. Okay.
This is full text. Yeah.
Yeah. Something I think that I just noticed now is, you know, the sense of young people being caught up in each other's name. Like Joanna is so excited to hear that his name is Anthony. Anthony just keeps repeating Joanna again. It's very Maria from West Side Story.
It is. And it's also really, I'm sure they didn't necessarily plan it this way because, again, this is adapting another stage work. But Anthony and Joanna both have 3 syllables. So it's really nice that they can counterpoint each other, too.
Perfect.
When they sing back and forth.
What a convenient coincidence.
A convenient coincidence is right. So now that she learns his name, that's when she keeps saying it over and over, right? I'll marry Anthony Sunday. That's what I'll do, right? I'll marry Anthony now. She's so excited that she's learned his name, which is great.
I think also that line is it really shows Joanna's kind of naivete, and because it sounds like a 4-year-old going like, I'm gonna marry Anthony Sunday. Like she's so excited about the way she words it. It's like how a child would word it, not how, you know, a young woman would word it. So it's kind of like she's a little sheltered, it seems. Yeah. And just the whole section about, I thought you were killed by the plague, or were in debtor's jail, or were trampled by a horse.
Yeah.
It's just like, oh, you're coming up with so many crazy scenarios in your head, which I love. It just shows how panicked she was, and I love that everything is so specific. But it's like, okay, girl, calm down.
Well, I think we mentioned this too, because this is very much a reprisal of Kiss Me. But yeah, she goes on this long list, right? And she still gets cut off, arrested by and she never finishes that thought in either section. I mean, I think the assumption is either her saying Beadle or Judge at this point. Like, who are in this, how this is staged, usually like the Judge and Beadle are like right behind them up on an upper level, but like they're all framed in the same shot together, sort of thing. So nice little symmetry there. This also, again, a reprisal of the Joanna 1, I guess is what we'll call it. Because that's where Anthony goes, like the marry me, miss, oh, you'll marry me Sunday. Like all that stuff is, the melodies from there, the lyrics are from there too. So they're just bringing back into this section for the two lovers. And then, yeah, it ends with like them all singing like that, like very full-throatedly out as the orchestra swells. This is one of my favorite parts too of that 1982 recording. It is so good. I think that they capture it. How they film it is also really, really well done. Anyways,
and also
I really
like
love this part.
It's so interesting because it's the way it's filmed. This, but in the 1982 production, it's, these two lovers are saying, "Oh, sir, on this," and they're having like such a sweet, fun, romantic moment, and it's full of like passion, and they're probably making out and stuff like that. But then the music underneath the Beadle and the Judge is kind of turns eerie and like a little perverse and everything, and the way it's shot, how you see the Beadle and Judge like walking away in that moment, it's really well done, I think. And of course the Beatles' final Sensitivities is on like a freaking high C or something, and so the Beadle can just indulge in that because he has to be the star.
It's true.
Which, like, I can relate, but, I mean, Lord,
you'll get to play the Beadle one day. Yeah.
I'm positive that one day I will play the frickin' Beadle, and I'll be like, ugh, whatever.
Over it. Just talking about staging just for a second, it is one of my favorite, like, theatrical conventions, though, of actors walking around a set or a stage. And, like, instinctively, we know as an audience that they're in different places, but are really going nowhere. Like they're going up and down stairs and around, like up on the scaffolding. It's like you're just going in a circle on the stage, but it feels like you're actually traveling somewhere.
Oh yeah, it's a great device, and it completely works, especially because there were so many like layers to that set.
So Matt, for you then, just this song in particular, Ladies and Their Sensitivities, if you had to rank, would you think this is going to be in like your top 5, middle 5, bottom 5? Like where would this actually rank in the score of Sweeney Todd for you?
It's kind of interesting because the actual like Beatles part, well, I think obviously the whole score is fantastic, but like if we're going, if the competition is of the other songs in the show, the Beatles part is not my favorite in the show. But when we get into the end, I'm like, oh wait, this is one of the best moments of the show for me. So it's kind of hard to judge because it's like we really have to like work hard to earn that final moment, We have to sit through a little weirdness and sit through this character that we hate, but in the end, it was worth it because it culminated into this amazing, passionate, and exciting moment musically and dramatically.
Have you ever had that moment of like introducing a friend or like a romantic partner to like a movie or something that you really love, and then you realize, oh yeah, there's like 20 minutes at the beginning that's like kind of a slog to get through? That's what this song feels like to me. It's like it gets better. I swear it gets better.
Oh, completely. Well, the last guy I dated, Lord, he poor him. He knew nothing about musical theater. He was very into metal. He was very much a metalhead. And so he made me a metal playlist, and it was like his favorite stuff, and it was like it was like a 2-hour playlist and everything. Yeah. So, imagine me listening to metal for 2 hours. It's a lot.
Sorry to break into your story. Did any of it stick? Was there any of it that was like, actually, I really like this?
I found that in terms of metal music, I was very much into Rob Zombie's stuff because it felt more cinematic, which makes sense because he's like a filmmaker as well.
Director too, yep.
And I found that the metal music I really didn't like was hair metal. Because it was at the end of the playlist that he gave me, and it was after listening to like this genuine like metal music and everything, getting to hair metal, which is kind of like, I don't know if you know what hair metal is. It's like the 80s pop metal stuff. And I just remember being like, after listening to genuine real metal, like I don't want to listen to this basically pop music. Get out of here. This isn't real. But yeah, so he made me this metal playlist, and then I made him a musical theater playlist that took me so long to make because there's so much that I want him to listen to, but I was like, no, I'm only going to do 1 or 2 songs from a show, if that, and everything. Mm-hmm. The playlist that I made him was still 9 hours long.
Oh my God.
But it's okay because we broke up before he was able to listen to the first.
Oh, I was going to ask if he liked any of it.
He started listening to it, and he told me that he liked the Cole Porter stuff.
Wild. Okay, interesting.
He enjoyed the Cole Porter stuff because he was like, the rhymes are really funny. And I'm like, oh, well, keep going. It just gets better and better. It didn't keep going. not to go into Matt Steele's personal life. But yeah, I very much can relate
that's our spin-off podcast. We'll talk about that.
Yeah. I can very much relate to and the thing is, like, I put on there like the 11-minute opener of Into the Woods and everything. And I'm like, no, you just have to listen to these 11 minutes. It's really important.
You have to buckle in and really listen to these 11 minutes. Yeah. Matt, this has been a great time, a delight, I would say. If people wanted to, stay in contact with you, see what you're up to, what's the easiest way for them to do so?
Well, you can follow me on Twitter or Instagram. My handle is @itsmattsteele, so ITS, and then my name, MATTSTEELE. Or they can follow me on YouTube. I co-host a YouTube show and podcast with a friend of mine who is also named Matt. The show is called Two Gay Mats, and you can find that on YouTube, or you can find that wherever you listen. You can find the podcast wherever you listen to podcasts on, Apple Music, Spotify, all that fun stuff. So,
not that anyone needs my recommendations. I think you have been putting out some like banger episodes here in like the last month. I'm also like 3 weeks behind, but maybe it's the last month. It was great, but yeah, some great episodes. I've been having a fun time listening.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. It's Oscar season, so I'm very enthusiastic this time of year.
Anytime you talk Oscars, like I really want to break into this conversation because I have opinions.
Oh, I know completely. Yeah. Or they can check out my movie that I put out called Devos. It's about boys in their school musical, so that's available in the US on anywhere you rent or buy movies, and it's also available on Amazon Prime.
Yes, and this is the first time that you are a guest on this show where I get to tell people it's available in Canada now. You can actually watch it.
Is it?
Yes, you can watch it on, I have to see with Tubi. It is available on Tubi.
You are giving me this. You're the first person to give me this information.
Let me just double check. I'm going to tap on it because I was searching this last night just to double check. And yeah, it starts playing definitely. So yes, you can watch this on Tubi in Canada.
This is blowing my mind. Thank you for letting me know. This is news to me. All right, Canadians, all of you out there, if you have Tubi, you can watch Devos.
You have no excuse anymore. You can watch it right now.
You have no excuse, Canada, unless you don't have Tubi. But, get some Tubi.
Here's the thing. Tubi is free, and it's free to watch. So you can do it right now. Matt, the last thing we have to do is this. In honor of Sweeney Todd, there's a question I've been asking everyone as a last question, which is, what is your favorite kind of pie?
My favorite kind of pie? Oh, This is a fun question. I'm not like a pie person. I'm much more of a candy person than a dessert person, I have to say. But there are some I'm very into like a chocolate pie I'm very into fruit desserts. So like would we count like a fruit tart as a pie?
It's close enough.
Okay. Because like a simple like apple pie or peach pie or something like that, I'm fine with, but those tend to be a little too sweet for me. Gotcha. Whereas I like the tartness of like a fruit tart. So if we're counting that as a pie, I'm going to say that. And a pizza pie, obviously.
I was going to say, I guess we could count pizza pie, too, if we really wanted to bend the rules here.
Yeah, I'm from New Jersey. Like, I have to say pizza.
All right, perfect. Thanks, Matt.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for listening. You can send emails to puttingittogetherpodcast@gmail.com. You can also follow Sondheim Podcast on Twitter and Instagram. And you can support the show on Patreon by going to patreon.com/puttingittogetherpodcast. Thank you to the Alberta Podcast Network and to ATB this week. Putting It Together is available on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and pretty much anywhere you can get podcasts from. Consider subscribing so that you never miss an episode. Next week, we'll be talking about Pretty Women. Boy, do I love watching them while they're watching. As always, a big thank you to the great Chris Taniguchi who designed the podcast artwork and to Nick Driscoll for composing our theme music. Well, we've reached the end of our episode. Yes, I know. Goodbye for now.